When we think about data platforms and data engineering, there are usually two main things that you do. Either migration, that means you have a platform that has some problems and you add tools or you change the tools to basically improve the platform, or you're doing something completely from the ground up, you're building something in the Greenfield, how they say. We're going to look today at the migration. Next time in the next video is the Greenfield thing. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And whenever you have questions, let me know in the comments. So let's look at it. This use case I have from the DBT Labs page where they show their customers and the problems that they have and how they solved it. This is Enpal. It's basically Enpal. It says here Germany's leading solar and heat pump installer, and they had a few challenges. We're going to look at this before and after with a diagram that I created with Claude to make it a bit easier for you to understand. So the idea here is they said they had problems, scattered transformation in silos. That means how you can look at this on the left, we have the sources, we have ingestion, we have the warehouse, and then below here we have transformation and BI, right? Transformation BI. Now, when we look at the top part, the sources, Salesforce, that means some kind of a CRM problem, right? CRM data coming in, going somewhere. Another CRM tool here for sales, acquisition, sales, and then internal systems, the energy and supply chain and everything. And that goes into a system of databases and tools that has been grown. And that is something you see all the time. You have very traditional MS SQL clusters where you put the data in. You have individual teams that are responsible for sales, responsible for acquisition, maybe energy or supply chain, right? They all have their databases. They all have their tools. They don't work together. It's completely different people. And so you're ending up with this where what you always call data silos, right? The data is in one of these database silos. It's from a standpoint of the individual silo easy to maintain, but when you look at it from a whole perspective, it's difficult. Then the other side here, very often this also happens. Now we have our SQL stuff. We need to do something with the cloud. Everybody's talking about the cloud. Let's do something on the cloud. Maybe a data lake or something, right? Then people come in and say, okay, let's use here Data Factory. Let's go with Data Factory. We're doing ETL. We're extract the data from somewhere, maybe from Salesforce, we do a transformation and then we put it somewhere. And then you have these multiple layers that all then end up here going into these 5 databases. It's a bit of a duplication, right? You're doing transformation here, you're doing some transformation there, you're putting the data into the databases, and then you are again here transformation with SQL scripts. And then at the end, some analysts are sitting there with Tableau and want to look at the data. Now, these, of course, need to then connect to all these 5 databases here, right? And nothing really fits together. As they wrote, scattered transformations and data silos, we already talked about that. Slow performance, they said. Queries were inefficient due to fragmented structure, hindering analytical flow. Of course, you have 5 databases, all with complete different structures, with complete different data. And then basically, how do you connect all these databases together? Because you don't have a single, like an ID or something that you can connect to, right? So how does all that work? Always difficult. So scattered ETL, slow performance, low data velocity, dependencies on different teams with varying permissions, cause delays, of course, because as I said here, let's go with this part here. You have 5 different teams. They all are very good at what they do, but they can only do certain things, right? And this team does not have permissions to do something here, right? So that is not allowed. Oops, I'm a bit in the way, but I think you get the idea, right? So that is always a problem. You have this, how are they connected? You can connect them with an ID, and then you have these 5 DBs where nobody really can do stuff. Then they had data quality issues. Of course, they had data quality issues. They wrote here, frequent raw data changes and slow processing times cause pipelines to malfunctions, affecting metrics and reports. Terrible, right? But the main problem here in this is that you have these 5 databases and that you have some transformation here, I have some transformation here. This is not how you do it. Now, what did they do? Let's scroll down to how they did this. Okay, so what they did is they cleaned up the ingestion part, and they cleaned up the actual storage part, and they cleaned up the transformation part, right? That is, now you have a very clear system how this works. Now they are using here Fivetran, but this could be any other data integration tool. They're using Airflow for scheduling. Stitch is most likely some legacy thing, automated synchronizations, and this completely replaces here Data Factory. So you don't have some databases here in this section. You don't have Azure here, nothing. It's very clean. Everything goes into one system, Snowflake, single source of truth, because data is there. You have a raw landing zone, of course, because the data that is coming here from Fivetran, you want to do basically what they're doing here is ELT. They're extracting, they're loading it, and then here's the transformation, right? This is the E part, this is the L part, and this is the T part, transformation. So once the data is in, dbt actually executes the transformations in Snowflake and does stuff, right? 1400 models, raw, cleaned, core reporting. This is a bit of, let's say, this, I would say, this smells like a medallion architecture. But you can see how this is cleaned up. If they say here 70% cost cut, 30 times faster, because you don't have these steps in between. The data only needs to be loaded here from Tableau from one data source, right? This is just one connection, done. Nothing really problematic. Rare outages, CI/CD adopted, because you can really well do this with Fivetran. Basically, when you make some changes that you have integration and development and deployment, I mean automation in it, and also the same thing with dbt Cloud. So that, and the legacy is gone in 3 months, because you can build everything in parallel, right? You don't have to wait for this whole thing to be installed. You can just run everything in parallel and then switch off the old infrastructure. They also said here they're using SLED for governance, data catalog here, observability metric store, because you can now do all these, right? These tools sits on top of Snowflake. These tools here can connect because it's a simple one-way connection or one tool connection. That's one of the big things that you always have, migration, right? You're migrating from a mess. The data sources are still there. The goal here with Tableau is still there. You're migrating from a mess into a architecture that is very clear. I don't know why they use here Stitch for legacy. Most likely is it because Fivetran doesn't have a connector to one of these systems here. So most likely Stitch sits somewhere here in between. I think could be, right? Because CRMs, that's something Fivetran can do. Yeah, and that is it. I'm going to do more of these. Let me know in the comments what questions you have regarding this. If there's something that's fishy, I put the link to the website here, to the dbt website. I have that in the description of this video. This is not a dbt video or something. This is just, I find these kind of things interesting. And this is basically the only way to get this is to go in, take some use cases that they have on their websites, and then try to figure out what they have done and why they have done it. But I think in this case, it's pretty clear. So again, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Next one is going to be a Greenfield approach where we start from zero and take a look at what they're thinking. Okay, see you in the next one.